passport about Ecuador and Peru. We are thrilled that you're here and can join us to talk about these incredible destinations and what they have to offer. I think South America has been a long time coming for EJ, but as most of you, hopefully some of you know, we don't like to plan anything that we don't feel like we're experts in. So we've spent the last couple of years exploring all over South America and the destinations we want to be selling. And we had Belén join our team, who's Ecuadorian. And some of you may know or have read, Elizabeth spent time living in Argentina. So it felt like a timely next destination to really expand, our product. As some of you may know, we love crafting personalized journeys for our clients, which means like knowing all the little boutique hotels and being able to mix and match, great guides and personalized experiences and knowing, every little detail of the trips that we're planning. So we're excited about South America. We're excited that it can match our trips to Africa, and we're excited to talk to you about it today. Let's see there. I'm Emily, and I'm a sales specialist here at EJ. I've been with EJ for 6 years, and I've been in the travel industry for about 20. I initially lived in Tanzania, where I ran a Kilimanjaro and safari outfitter. And after 5 years being in Tanzania, I moved back to the US, and the next sort of plan seemed to be like helping people plan and sell trips to destinations that I loved. I've been lucky enough to explore a lot of South America, and then I've spent the past couple of years, pre-COVID years, and some of them don't really count, exploring South America and the destinations that we are now selling. I also spent time working at Natural Habitats, and their Galapagos trip is their flagship trip, I should say. So I was able to get to know the Galapagos really intimately. I think while the Galapagos Islands always intrigued me, I wasn't really super excited by them. I just didn't know or think that there could be another wildlife experience that could parallel Africa and the wildlife there, to be perfectly honest. But my first trip there, I found out I was really wrong. And I'll admit it here. I think, I was completely wowed by the experience and the marine wildlife, and being able to swim face to face with sea lions and tortoises and sharks. And I mean, just the entire natural landscape was phenomenal. So I really did fall in love with the islands. I think another one of my favorite places is the Salcantay Trail, which we'll talk about later. And then of course, Patagonia, but we're gonna save that for another time. I'm gonna let Belén introduce herself, and then we're gonna get going.
All right. Hi, everyone, and thank you for being here with us tonight. So nice to see such a beautiful crowd. My name is Belén. I was born and raised in Ecuador. And I have been working in the tourism industry for more than 20 years. Most of it will be in Ecuador for over 15 years, where I got to know everything from logistics, properties, hidden gems, in my beautiful Ecuador, but I also have traveled extended traveling around South America, and have worked closely in Peru, in Chile, and Argentina. I am so excited to be part of the EJ team and to share the best of South America with you all. My job is going to be to make sure that you are all well taken care of while you're traveling.
Okay, so why do a webinar about these two destinations? I think our most popular demand is for the Galapagos and Machu Picchu. And so there are a lot of logistics surrounding, combining them and when to go and how to go and where to go. And so naturally, we're going to start there. We love combining the two of them. It's an easy bucket list trip. It's a great way to kind of see two hotspots. And not have to split it, into two trips, or if you don't have time. But I think if you were to ask myself or Belén, we would probably encourage you to spend more time in each of them. Mainland Ecuador is charming, and it has so much to see and do, and Peru is vast. And, you could easily do a trip, a week-long to a 2-week-long trip to both of them separately, and have more than enough to cover. This is going to be a fairly short presentation. We're going to cover a lot. I often say this in phone calls if we've ever been on the phone before, and I know that there are some people here that that have talked to me. So you don't need to remember it all. We're happy to kind of get on another call, answer questions, talk through it with you a little bit slower and answer any questions that you have. But we do hope that this inspires you and gets you excited and is a great overview. And we can answer some key questions and kind of get you guys excited about a new destination. At the end, we're going to answer some questions. And so there's a little chat box down, in Zoom. It's most of us are familiar post-COVID. So if you want to pop them in there, we'll cover anything that we don't in the presentation at the end of this webinar. All right, we're going to get to it. I'm going to let Belén kick it off because she's going to start about her home country of Ecuador. Over to you, Belén.
All right. Awesome. Welcome to South America, everyone. Ecuador and Peru, they are all located in the west coast of the South America continent, neighboring one to another. The access to both countries is pretty much straightforward. There are a few direct flights from main airports in the US, like Miami, Houston, Atlanta, and you will be flying straight down south. This is, of course, a great benefit because there are no extreme zone time zone changes. So obviously, no jet lag, and it's so easy to adapt on arrival that you can literally jump on your activity upon arrival. The first of its question that we get is why you should go. Many would say the Galapagos, but wait a second, like this is not a photo of the Galapagos, like we're not going there. Well, I gotta say that Ecuador has something for everyone. Mainland could say this is a sleeper, but did you know that in Ecuador we have a cloud forest, we have the Amazon basin, beautiful colonial cities, beaches, active volcanoes. So I'm gonna go over a lot of these places, trying to inspire you to really get to know Ecuador. Your main point of entry will be Quito, the capital, just right there in the highlands in the center, or also Guayaquil, which is the main port for us. And Guayaquil is also the closest airport to the Galapagos. Most of the flights actually make a speed. It stops here en route to the Galapagos, and the location of the country itself make it ideal to explore more of South America. Like Peru, Lima is only a 2 hours flight from either Quito or Guayaquil. Let's start with my hometown, Quito. You could say I'm biased, okay, but it's such a beautiful city. It's nested in a valley surrounded by snow-capped volcanoes and lush mountains. You will be amazed by the Baroque style of its churches, the narrow streets in downtown, the warmth of its people, and don't forget, food is really good. In Quito, Quito was one of the first cities to be declared by the UNESCO as a World Heritage Site because it has the largest, least altered, and best preserved historic center in the Americas. One of our favorite properties here is Casa Cangotena. This is a colonial mansion that was turned into this charming hotel. And the location is just perfect. You are just, steps away from San Francisco Square, where everything happens, and there is so much to explore the city from here. In the highlands, you will find many breathtaking views, active volcanoes, and many, many rich culture towns. For instance, this is a water-filled volcano crater called Quilotoa, and you can just go there and hike and, get a beautiful experience. One of our favorite places in the highlands is this one is Hacienda Zuleta. This is a family-owned hacienda that has opened its door to travelers to experience a little bit of the hacienda lifestyle. It's located only 2 hours from Quito, north from Quito, and is a perfect, place to start your experience of Ecuador. There's so many activities that you can do it from here. So many cultural encounters, horseback riding, bird watching, living the hacienda lifestyle, like waking up early, milking your cow, or just like being part of processing and making the milk into cheese, so much more.
Also, a fun fact about this place is that it's owned by like the Kennedys of Ecuador. So they have a really long history, like a couple of presidents, and several members still live on the property. So it's a great way to get a personalized experience, like grab a glass of wine, sit by the fire, and hear some incredible stories.
Right. Another hot spot in Ecuador is the famous cloud forest. This is an area rich in biodiversity, and it calls for all bird watchers, entomologists, orchid enthusiasts, and adventure travelers. Why not? Right? Here you can spend your days at Mashpi Lodge. It's a private reserve, and it is located only 3 hours drive from Quito. Mashpi Lodge is certainly a magical place. Your days over here will be filled with adventure, wildlife observation, beautiful hikes. You know, they actually have a menu of hikes from the easy ones, moderate, and those very extenuate hikes that, you know, you can get over there. Also night walks and visit their research station.
This is also a Relais and Chateau property. So at the end of each day, you get to unwind, have a good meal, enjoy the spa, great drinks, and a gorgeous property.
Let's not forget about the Amazon basin, one of the most biodiverse places on earth. Here we love Napo Wildlife Center, which is the property you just see there, because it's community owned and run. It's the only property located inside the Yasuni National Park. And it's very easy to access. You only have a short 30-minute flight from Quito, and you are right there in the entrance of the Amazon. Most of the lodges around here will offer you walks in the jungle. They have their own observation towers where you can admire the forest from the canopies, and you can also go out fishing for piranhas, or visit one of the, you know, ancient communities, the guardians of this wonder. Some other fun spots in Ecuador will include Cuenca, which is a very nice colonial city. You can hike the Cotopaxi volcano if you're, you know, climber. You can relax at white sand beaches, and there is so much more. All right, so now to the juicy part. Our main attraction of the day, the Galapagos Islands. I'm gonna say the Galapagos is ideal for any type of traveler. You will see there is something for everyone. We're gonna cover most of common questions that we have, like when to go, what will I see, how do I explore? Should I go on a cruise? Should I go on a land base? What is the best time for you to go? You know, and so much more. First we can say that when do you go? A little bit of general information about the Galapagos is that these islands are equatorial, so it's suitable for travel year-round. There are no true high or low season. And I'm gonna say here, the best season will depend on you, will depend on your schedule, the time you are free, your interest, and your budget. So this is where your EJ team comes in handy. Right, what would you see? You know, most of people would like to check off the wildlife that you will find here. We can, you know, to name a few of them, you have giant tortoises, sea lions, penguins, sea turtles, sharks, so many fish. I'm gonna say the snorkeling activity here in the Galapagos is one of the highlights, is like the best. And bird life is not to be missed. You have tons of them, like so many different, from blue-footed boobies, red-footed boobies, albatrosses, frigates, flightless cormorants, and of course, Darwin's favorites, the finches. So where do you go? These are the Galapagos. The archipelago is of volcanic origin. It lays about 1,000 kilometers off the coast of Ecuador. It's a 2 hours flight from the mainland, and you will arrive either to the north of Santa Cruz Island, or San Cristobal. There are only 2 airports in the entire archipelago. The archipelago is formed by 18 major islands, 3 smaller ones, and more than 100 rocks and islets. So there is a lot to see, and every island is different because of its formation, because they are isolated, and moving around to get to see them. You can either do it by boat or explore the island you are based on. Only 4 of the islands are inhabited. You have Santa Cruz, San Cristobal, Isabela, and Floriana. All others can be explored and are not inhabited, but can be explored during the day or on your cruise. So moving on to how to explore. Here is, the question is, by boat or by land? Well, we think the right answer is only on you. We're here to, help you navigate and share our knowledge and best tips, but, to inspire you, and you get to decide what is the best for you. On a boat, you can get more islands for sure, and the area that you're going to cover is more expansive. The longer you cruise, the more you can explore. Your cruises could be from 4, 5, 8, up to 15 days. Your boats will offer also a more intimate and personalized experience. You get to know your guide and your crew during this time. You bond, grow a relationship with them, and this is pretty nice. This is also a very active time, or as I could say, as active as you would like. Yes, you're gonna go visiting the islands, and in the morning and afternoon, you'll have like a couple of kilometers around the island, but there is also the opportunity to swim, snorkel. Most of the boats will offer you kayaks, stand-up paddling, so lots of activities. Your days are gonna be, full of activities. A boat is also a good option for multi-generational families traveling, because it offers a variety of activities and accommodations that will fit, different interests. On the cons, I'm gonna say, but you are on a boat, your space is limited, and if you are prone to get seasick, this might not sound pretty good. And also, your days are very stricter and strict. Your travel dates will have to fit the boat's itinerary.
I think it's important to note that you guys can always mix and match. So you could do a 3 or 4 night cruise and then a couple of days on a land option, at a lodge. So there's a lot of different possibilities that we can talk about, but you don't have to pick one or the other if you're indecisive.
Yeah, there's a lot of combination. So let's talk about boats. You will find smaller boats are for between 16 and 20 passengers. Yachts and catamarans are in this, category. Medium-sized boats will go from 40, 48 passengers, and then there are the large expedition vessels that are from 90 and 100 passengers. They all will offer, very comfortable accommodations, nice and ample, gathering areas, great fresh food, and the service, I'm gonna say, it always is gonna be super, Also, just a note here that your group on the expedition of the island is always gonna be 16 guests per guide. So no matter what size of the boat, once you go to explore the island, it's only gonna be 16 people in your group at the time with one guide. Which brings me to a little example of how a boat itinerary could look. And due to restrictions on the national park regulations, each boat could have 2, 3, or even 4 itineraries and routes. The boats are subject to a very strict schedule, and so where are you going the next day, and there would be no deviation. So your itinerary, that is very strict, that is what you have to stick with, and also means that your day is going to be also scheduled in a fairly strict way. Exploring the islands will have a certain time for you to go, to come back, a certain time of time for snorkeling and other activities, but all of the boats will hit the highlights, getting to see the blue-footed boobies, the tortoises, the snorkeling, and so much more, right? But here, if you have a specific animal or a place you really, really want to see, let us help us. Let us help you getting into the right boat and the right route to you.
Yeah, for instance, like albatross only go to some islands, and red-footed boobies are only found in certain islands. So if you do have something really specific that you're trying to check off your list, let us know, and we'll make sure we're covering that route for you.
Mm-hmm. Then we have the land base. So on the pros, you are not on a boat. And there are so many gorgeous properties in the inhabited islands now. So if people is, if you're worried if you're gonna get seasick, or you're not very good into confined spaces, this is a great option, to explore the islands. You have more flexibility in your itinerary. You can decide when to get there, how long to stay, how private you want to do your excursions. There is all the option of private tours, and you have access to certain activities that are not available on board, like diving for a day or surfing classes. You can choose to stay in one or all the 4 of the inhabited islands and do some island hopping, which is a pretty nice experience as well. On the contraries, well, you get to explore less islands. So, your days are going to be split between exploring your base island and navigation to the neighboring islands only. So you don't get to see, far islands, because the navigations probably won't be ideal. So for example, in a 5-day itinerary, you might have 2 days in your base island and 2 other days to explore a neighboring island in a boat. And talking a little bit of the restrictions, the Galapagos is a national park. So therefore are rules that all visitors, operations, and inhabitants have to follow. Only 3% of the entire archipelago has been designed as a visiting site, and the 97% remains untouched or not accessible to visitors, which is great, but at the same time, it has limited a lot on terms of the time and the rules, the strict rules that you have to follow. If you take a boat or a land-based trip, the rules will apply to any type of travel. You will have to go to a site accompanied by a guide only, stick to their directions, stay in the marked path, and then, follow the code of conduct and respect the wildlife. That's the only thing that they are asking you. No matter how you decide to spend your Galapagos expeditions, we want to know your interests. We want to know what do you want from this trip, so we can pair you with the right boat, the right property, the right time. We want this to be a life-changing experience, to look into this magical place.
All right, how's everybody doing? We're moving countries. We're going to go to, good, Mark's good. Moving on to Peru. Again, we're going to cover the highlights, Machu Picchu and the Sacred Valley, but Peru is also so vast.
Wait, Emily, quick question before you move to Peru. There was one question from Deborah, which is, are there no self-directed walks? And are you always with a guide?
You're on the Galapagos Islands, you'll always be with a guide. I mean, unless you're on at a lodge where you can walk around the property on your own, or go up the road.
There are certain spaces, like in the inhabited islands, that you can go by yourself, like beaches, or I would say most of that is going to be beaches or certain places that you can go by yourself. but other visiting areas, you will always have to be with your guide.
Yeah. Okay, now we'll head to Peru. We're going to touch on kind of highlights and other areas as well. As you can see, Peru is large. Your main point of entry is going to be Lima right here, where you'll be flying in and out of several like big US cities are going to be flying direct right in and out of Lima. So that's nice. Most of the flights are going to arrive either early in the morning or really late at night. So we've got a hotel within the airport that you can stay in to make it super easy, or you can head into Lima, which is about an hour's drive, depending on traffic, for a couple of nights at the beginning or the end of your trip. Most of the flights are going to be flying out really late at night, so you can almost get like a full day of adventuring and then fly into Lima in time to fly out, on your midnight 11 p.m. flight. So it's another great reason to go to Peru as a shorter trip, 8 days, 10 days, and cover a lot, and get really full days with your arrivals and departures. You can also really easily fly in from Quito or Guayaquil, depending. I think we always think about Machu Picchu, but Peru is very expansive. You got the Amazon in the north, you've got beaches to the west, you have Lake Titicaca down south, the desert, the Nazca Lines, the Condors in Colca Canyon. There's a really rich history and culture here that adds to every trip, and there's a lot to discover off the beaten path.
Right. My favorite places while traveling in Peru has always been those less explored, and there are so many in Peru.
I think that it's often thought of as like a bucket list spot, but maybe like a lesser spot on the list. But I think it's really rich in culture and wildlife and hikes and adventure and stunning landscapes, that it feels like the resounding like feedback that we get from our EJ travelers is that they went in excited, but like, we're going to get this off the list and move on, and end up coming back like having, like really been impacted by like the mystic and this kind of spirituality of the place and the people. And we kind of think of it as a sneaker destination for sure. It's also a cradle of civilization, which I don't think, you always like put together like you do with Egypt. But because it's steeped in culture and the Incas, you're kind of immersed like the minute you get off the plane, wherever you are, from horses to walks to mores. I mean, I think it's kind of surrounding you at all time, the community and the culture and the Incas. There are some really great properties also, like the Inca Terra here, but I think along with the properties is what you can do from each and the access you have to all the activities. It's like one giant playground, which I love. Most of your trips to Machu Picchu, you're going to fly into Cusco and then head straight into the Sacred Valley to get acclimatized, spend a couple of days hiking and visiting mores and relaxing and eating good food and all of the things to kind of adjust. You're about 8,000 feet or so in the Sacred Valley before you head up to the higher altitudes of Cusco and Machu Picchu, which is actually not much higher than the Sacred Valley. I think it's maybe slightly lower. The Quechua people are descendants of the Incas, and they're still very much practicing their traditions. So you've got a lot of opportunity to visit the local communities in an authentic way. You're not like driving to a village to visit. I mean, they're woven into the kind of landscape and tapestry of the country. Their colorful textiles are everywhere. And most trips are going to have some sort of interaction, whether you want to or not. But then also, there's plenty of opportunity to have some really, really wonderful interactions with the community and the people. So how do we get to Machu Picchu? There are several ways. I think that the most popular is probably by train. There are a couple of different trains that get you up into Aguas Calientes, which is going to be the town where Machu Picchu, access point to Machu Picchu. So there's quite a few lodges and properties around there, and you kind of take the train right in and arrive usually midday afternoon. The Inca Trail, of course, is the other hot way to get into Machu Picchu. I think it's really nice because you can do it in 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 days. So there's a lot of variability to the trek. If you want to just get a little bit of hiking in, if you want to do a lot of hiking, I think that the most important thing to note about these treks is that the government really controls the trail. There are a lot of strict rules and regulations. So they limit the number of permits and how many people are allowed to be on the trail at any given time. And then they're the ones that are setting the campsites. So, you know, some places you can kind of get off the beaten path slightly and not be with the crowds. Whereas on the Inca, you do have to stay, you know, everyone's staying in the same place, even if you're on a private trek. This is the only trek or trail that like kind of accesses Machu Picchu through the Sun Gate, which is quite famous. So I think a lot of people feel like it's still totally worth it for that entry point, and we're some of the crowds. But there's also a lesser known hike called the Salcantay Trail. It's becoming a little bit more popular because it really is quite special, but this is a 6-day trek. It's not flexible. You kind of are stuck to this, to the trail and to the number of days, but you're going to be hiking through all sorts of villages, multiple ecosystems, and it's a lodge to lodge trek. So instead of camping, you're going to be in little eco boutique lodges. They're lovely. There are usually around 8 rooms per lodge. So while you're walking, you know, 6 to 8 hours a day, you're ending each day in a boutique lodge with a good meal and a hot shower and a comfortable bed and a glass of wine. This trail does have a bit of altitude. You can see Machu Picchu Mountain up here. You're going to go over that pass, which is about 15,500 feet. So we'll call it similar to like Kilimanjaro Base Camp or even Everest Base Camp. And then you drop back down again and then sort of end in Aguas Calientes. You are going to access the Citadel the same way that most other people do, but in my personal opinion, the trail is so special that it doesn't really matter that you're not coming in through the Sun Gate. The trains in are plenty. We love the Vista Dome train, and then we also really love the Hiram Bingham train, which is a Belmont train right and shown right here. It's a bit more expensive, but they give you a nice meal. You have beautiful views. You've got local entertainment, and it's just a lovely, luxurious way to get to Machu Picchu.
Right. You know, Emily, I've always thought that exploring a country by train is a totally different experience, and you can do that in Peru. So many routes to available to explore.
Yeah, it's true. And actually this train has a couple of different routes, so you can take it down south as well. There are several ways. They've got an overnight train, and there are several ways to explore by train. All right, Machu Picchu. I think that one of the big misconceptions about Machu Picchu is that you're going to stay there for like a couple of nights. So, you know, you're going to the Citadel and that's where you're going to be. It's actually quite a short stopover. It's just one night or even a day if you want to skip the night. So all of the treks and trains arrive midday. Some of the treks, you know, if we're doing a private trek for you, we'll try to get you to come into the Citadel at lunchtime when everyone clears out, so you can get sort of an exclusive, more private visit of Machu Picchu. But generally speaking, you're going to come in for an afternoon visit. All of our trips are privately guided, so you'll be with your private guide. You guys will spend the afternoon exploring and then head out to your lodge. There's several great properties around. Spend the night, have dinner, and then in the morning you'll head back into Machu Picchu for a morning visit. As this photo sort of shows, there's a really heavy cloud cover over the Citadel. So a lot of people want to get there bright and early for their like sunrise photos, which aren't really a reality. It's pretty misty. It's still quite spiritual if you're up for it, but you can also push that entry a little bit later and hike Huayna Picchu or Machu Picchu Mountain, get some gorgeous photos as the clouds sort of start to rise and lift, and spend the morning exploring. And then after your morning entrance, you'll have, you know, sort of a late lunch and then take the train back into Cusco. Most of these trains arrive into Cusco late at night, like around 8 o'clock or so into the train station. So you've got time for a late dinner and an overnight that are almost necessary due to logistics. But we love Cusco. It's a charming little town. There's a lot to do, and it's really manageable. So I always tell people, like, this is a great place to have maybe a morning activity with a guide, or plan something special and then spend the afternoon exploring, wandering a little bit on your own, or just like sitting with a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and people watching and just taking it all in. Like, it's really lovely. It's a favorite place. I keep saying it's rich in history and culture, but I think it's really important because there's just so many things you can do. There's weaving classes and hikes to Devil's Balcony and cooking classes. There's like chocolate pairings with local booze that you can do if you're up for it. There's market shopping. We really try to create days that are personalized and custom to the client and, you know, what you guys are interested in and what you want to explore. So while Machu Picchu obviously is a highlight, we would not be EJ if we did what everybody else did. So we are also really into kind of getting off the beaten path and visiting places that other people aren't going to be visiting while they're there. So Choqquequirau is a great, and I'm sure Belén's correcting me in her head right now with my pronunciation, but it's it's another hike that you can do. It's not very easy. It's pretty steep and exposed. So, you know, we wouldn't have you go by foot if you weren't up for the challenge, but the reward is a ruin almost as large as Machu Picchu, really, and hardly anybody there. I mean, it's phenomenal, and the visit can be almost completely private just due to crowds not, you know, people not accessing it. If hiking's not for you, we can helicopter you over there too. So there's a lot of options. The Sacred Valley and that whole surrounding area is just, it's phenomenal. It's beautiful. There's plenty to do. There's hikes, there's birds, there's horses, there's ATVs if you want to do ATVs. They have a sky lodge, like hanging off the side of a cliff, and you can have lunch or sleep there. But it really is kind of a giant playground, and it's super easy to kind of get to the ruins and visit these areas without all the people. And then of course, we're happy to set you up with any sort of, you know, local experience too. But there's a lot of options, a lot of different ways to visit. So if you still have questions like this sweet little guy, we'll talk you through it. Moving on from Machu Picchu, actually moving back to Machu Picchu, I don't think I talked about the seasonality earlier, but there's sort of two seasons, a wet season and a dry season. So December to sort of March-ish is going to be considered wet, and then May through September is going to be your drier seasons with little shoulders on either side. But the wet season is not going to be like heavy downpouring rain like some of our African destinations, but I do think it's important to note if you're going to be planning an Inca Trail sleeping in tents and sleeping bags trip. We'll talk about.
There is a good chance you get some rain.
Yeah, might wake up wet one morning. All right, now moving on to Lima. You know, since all of the flights are sort of in and out of Lima, even down to Cusco, it does kind of set itself up to be a great addition for a couple of nights at the beginning or the end of your trip. It's a big city, but it's a cool city. They've got a lot going on. There's a big foodie scene. There's a famous husband and wife chef duo. They're Michelin star, and they've got one of the best restaurants in the world currently called Central, if you've heard of it. There's like a mini month wait list to get in, although we can get some spots here and there. And his wife, Pia Leon, just opened up her own restaurant right next door to Central. So you've got two like competing sort of, but husband and wife duo, Michelin star restaurants right there in the heart of Lima. You've got incredible museums like La Marca and history. And then of course you've got Barranco and Miraflores and these little kind of villages, or I don't know, boroughs that you can explore and visit as well. If you fly north from Lima, you get to the Amazon, the Peruvian Amazon. We actually just put out a really good blog talking about the differences between the Ecuadorian and the Peruvian Amazon. So we're happy to send it your way if you would like. But I think that the Peruvian Amazon is pretty incredible. There are two ways to experience it. So you can either go by boat or by land. If you enter by boat, you're going to be flying into Iquitos and then boarding your boat from there. The Peruvian Amazon by boat is really the only luxury way to experience it. So you've got relay and chateau boats. They're small. They're personalized. You've got the Delphine and the Aquanera, which is brand new out on the water. And they're going to really deliver in terms of food and service and guides and all of the things. Some of the activities you'll be doing on the boats are swimming with pink dolphins, which is like wild because they swim around a circle and protect you while like caimans are staring at you on the side and piranhas are in there, but it's really great. You can go trekking for anacondas, you can piranha fish, you can go like catch the caimans if you want. So the experience is phenomenal, and I think it can really parallel some of what Brazil offers in terms of a well-rounded experience. If you go by land, you're going to be flying into a different port of entry, and then you're going to be taking a boat up the river to one of the lodges in the Tambopata area. So here we've got the Tambopata Research Center, but there's an Inca Terra, there's Refugios Amazonicas, there's a couple of properties that are all really great. This is none of these are going to be like 5-star lodges, but they're phenomenal. A lot of them have a lot of community involvement, and this is going to be a great option if you want to be stretching your legs a little bit more, or if you've got really specific bird life that you want to see. So for instance, the Macau clay licks are based in Tambopata, and some of them are only accessed by certain lodges. So it totally depends on what you're up for and what your priorities are, but both of them are going to really give you a pretty well-rounded Amazon experience. From the Amazon, you've got the Colca Canyon. Belén was recently in the Colca Canyon, right? You loved it.
Oh, love it. Like, what a great experience. This is like such a deep natural canyon. And if you are looking for condors, this is the spot. They all just hang out there for you.
Right up the road, you've got Arequipa, which is like another charming old town where you can spend a day sort of exploring and getting to know the history here before, flying out to your next adventure. One of our favorite ways to end a Peruvian adventure would be on Lake Titicaca, which is, well, obviously a lake, but they've got islands made of reeds that like float around this lake, and then you can visit, and they're pretty cool. They're pretty exceptional.
Right. The interesting fact about the Uros, which is the people living in these islands, like making these islands, is this is a pre-Inca civilization. These people has been living and building and maintaining these islands for thousands of years.
Yeah. Specifically on Lake Titicaca is Titicaca Hotel, which we love. It's sort of like a safari experience where your day, you don't need to plan ahead of time, but your days, are just full of it as adventurous or not as you want, but like you can go biking, you can get out on the lake, you can go visit the communities, you can go to the spa. You kind of book your stay there and then get there and plan your days accordingly. So it's a fabulous spot and a great way to sort of unwind after all the adventure of the North. If you're not lake people, then you can be beach people. There's also incredible beaches and really good surfing, which most people don't know, off the coast of Peru. Obviously, I think, and hopefully you've learned from me, that I think that Peru is kind of a hidden gem. We would encourage you to look beyond Machu Picchu. We encourage you to spend some time in the country. I think a lot of people look at Peru and sort of see backpackers and people going there and think that it's easy to book on your own, which can be true. You can book it on your own, but they're also known for being very organized with their strikes and shutting down roads and airports and things like that. And so I think it's nice to have someone help you book all of your experiences and support you on the ground in case you run into a plane strike or a road strike or something. We can make changes on the go as needed. But it is an incredible country. It's a great way to do a quick trip that's not multi-weeks if you want to, or if you want to stretch it out. It's obviously very easy to combine with Ecuador. All right, we've covered a lot. Hopefully we've inspired you. Hopefully we haven't bogged you down too much. Hopefully we've gotten you excited to visit these countries in Belén's home. And we're of course here to chat about it more specifically and put our EJ touch on it, as we love to do. With all bucket list trips, there are going to be crowds, there's going to be a lot of people. And I think what we're looking for is like getting you away from the crowds, personalizing the experience, using the right guides and private experiences, and making sure that the itinerary is right, so we can take that trip from okay to extraordinary, which is what we love to do.
Emily, there are a few questions.
Time for some questions. Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, perfect. You actually had a slide that said questions. So Deborah had asked, and I tried to answer a few about the safety of Peru, which really, I would say Peru has gone a long ways in terms of safety. And Lima, you have to use common sense, and like any big city in South America. Yeah, and a lot of, anywhere.
New York.
I would say that, yeah, anywhere, in Ecuador, in Peru, all around South America, now in North America as well, you have to be smart when you travel and, be safe. But both countries are pretty, safe countries. Yes.
And then we had a question about traveling with children, and, both destinations look amazing, but what would you recommend for ages like 5 and 7? It seems like the Galapagos, like, are there any like kids activities in the Galapagos, or is it better for kids and teens? I did my best to answer. I hope you don't contradict what I write, but I'll let you give your own opinion.
Land-based options in Galapagos are great for young kids because they can kind of, they're not on the boat, they're not stuck. You've got lots of options. If you need to step back and, skip something, you can. It's really easy to. The properties are going to be able to work around you and your family and your interests a lot easier than, like, for instance, a boat, which is going to have stricter itineraries, as Belén mentioned earlier. But they can still see tons of wildlife and go on boats and snorkel and go hang out with the giant tortoises in the highlands of Santa Cruz. I mean, there's a lot to be said. You can get them into the Amazon in Ecuador. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to be done in those places. Peru can also be great.
Also, some of the boats will have a minimum age of 7, 6 to get in.
8,
so some of them will have a lesser minimum age, but I think like a land-based in the Galapagos would be very, very flexible especially for young kids, like age of 5. You don't want to have them sitting in there in a lecture for long. You cannot do that, right? So the land-based will offer you so many different activities. You can go fishing with a local fisherman and like have that experience with your family, or have some classes, surfing lessons for the kids in a beach. It's pretty much very, very flexible for them, and like a really nice destination.
On the heels of that, though, Peru is great too. It's a huge playground. You're going to be on all privately guided excursions in Peru, so it makes it really easy to cater to families. Anything else? Any other?
Oh, is there a perfect month to visit Cusco and Machu Picchu? Good weather but less crowds. What's your secret season like that people should consider?
I kind of like our fall.
Yeah, I was gonna say November.
Right after, everyone goes back to school and people aren't traveling as much. And before the rains of December, I think, October, November are good times to be in Peru. October sometimes brings in that Humboldt current in the Galapagos, and brings in kind of colder water, and it gets a little bit choppier. Big mammals too, but definitely some choppier waters. So you'll often find that some of the boats go to dry dock during that time and get their repairs, or lodges kind of shut down and do refurbs. So October is nice. Like November is nice if you're going to do a combo, but October is nice if you're just going to Peru. Things to think about.
If there are any more questions, but I mean, it was a great presentation. Oh, can you see whales in the Galapagos?
You do in a certain time, mostly October, November, but it's a very specific place. If you can, it's between Fernandina and Isabella up north, and they hang. There are orca whales hanging in there during this very short period of time, that if you're lucky, you take the right boat that's going to take you up there, you will have a chance to see them.
Is the Inca Trail too hard for kids to do? And I'm assuming, I will
Small
ask.
kids.
Yeah.
Small kids could be tough. I mean, I think it depends on how much hiking they do. There's always an outlier, having run big mountain climbs before, but I think if they're not used to like long, hard days, I mean, the thing about those trails is that they can get quite steep, and especially entering into Machu Picchu is just a ton of steps. So, you know, I think it's probably kid dependent, and I'm always happy to talk about it in a little more detail and the distances and days and things like that. You could maybe do a shortened, like 1 or 2 day trek in, you know, or even just a day trip. You get off the train at kilometer 104 and you can walk in. It's long, it's kind of tough, but it's just 1 day. So there are options, but I think multi-day, they've got to be pretty good little hikers. Anything else?
I mean, there's no more questions. I mean, this was great. I think you covered so much that
Everyone's brain is spinning and you need to go have a glass of wine. I keep bringing up wine at the end of the day, but you know, and think about it all, but we're
Like,
here.
why not?
We're happy to answer any questions or hop on a call and talk through things a bit more, but hopefully, hopefully we covered a lot and got you guys excited. Thanks for joining us.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
you feel inspired and give us a call.
Perfect.
to
It was
help.
fantastic. Thank you so much. It was a fantastic presentation. And I've been to these places and I just feel like going back tomorrow. So
Good. All right. Thanks for joining, everybody.
Thank you, everyone for coming.
Bye.
Bye.
Oops.